Hey guys, Minyo from Your House Fitness. Today we're going to be talking about the Dumbbell Romanian Deadlift. Very common exercise. A lot of people will prescribe it for growing their hamstrings or the glutes and strengthening the lower back. Okay, it's a great exercise, often though typically done incorrectly. So I'm going to show you guys how I do it personally. It's going to vary between different people because there is a lot of differences between, say, a Romanian and a stiff leg, but there's also a lot of similarities, so people will get one or the other mixed up or confused with. So I'm gonna go for how I teach the Romanian deadlift. It's gonna have to do a lot with your actual movement pattern before you even start. So before you even do a Romanian deadlift, I always like practicing just hinging at the hips, okay? Hip hinge is very simple. I'm gonna find my hip crease. I'm gonna, you can use your hands here if you wanna help you remember where it is. And I'm just gonna bend at the hips and push my butt back behind me. That's the big part, and it's what often people will get wrong, is they'll bend at the hips, but they won't push their butt back behind them, okay? So this is what a good hinge will look like. I'm gonna have a soft bend in my knee. I'm gonna have my hip crease do most of the movement. I'm bending at the hips, and my butt's going back, okay? So once again, find that hip crease, hinge at the hips, and push your butt back at the same time. Don't go so far back that when I start doing it, okay, I'm gonna go back, I'm going back, and I go too far back, my toes come up. Okay, you still wanna have your foot on the floor, well-balanced position, good mid-foot position when you're doing it, okay? And you just wanna warm up and practice the regular hinge before you even start doing the Romanian deadlift. That way when you get to Romanian deadlift, you kind of, been practicing the movement. So with the dumbbells, I like to have them kind of like at my side. It will not be super far in front, but at your side's a pretty good position. I'm gonna make sure my core is braced before you even start. So I'm gonna take that deep breath in. I'm gonna keep my ribs down, push my sides out, and I'm gonna brace really, really hard, okay? I'm also gonna keep the dumbbells close to me. This is the difference between a stiff leg and a Romanian. With a Romanian, you wanna keep the weight, in this scenario, is the dumbbell, very close to you, okay? I'm literally gluing it to my thighs. It's gonna go down my knees and my shin. It's not gonna ever leave my body at any point. I'm braced, I'm keeping it close to my body, and then I'm gonna do what I just did before, soft bend in my knees, hinge at the hips, and push your butt back behind you. Go down until you feel a stretch, okay? Make sure your core is still neutral. And you're gonna then push through the floor with your feet and thrust your hips forward, making sure to not hyperextend your back or go too far back, okay? So, from the beginning, core is braced, pushing my sides out, keeping the dumbbells close to me, hinge at the hips, and your butt's gonna go back. Like so. I feel the stretch about here, and I'm gonna push through the floor and straighten my hips, okay? So that's how you would do a dumbbell Romanian deadlift. The differences between a Romanian and a stiff leg is very, very small, but with a stiff leg deadlift, you are literally not bending your knees whatsoever. There's a little bit of knee bend in a Romanian, but in a stiff leg, there's very little knee bend, and because of that, the dumbbell is gonna start further away from you. It won't be glued to your thighs like a Romanian would. So, with a stiff leg, you kind of set up the dumbbells on the floor. Yeah, I would also argue it's a much harder variation. So dumbbells on the floor, I'm gonna do the same thing, hinge at my hips, my butt's gonna go back behind me, but in order for me to get the dumbbell, see how much further the dumbbells are away from me? You're not glued to me like a Romanian would be. So the difference between the two is I have a relatively straight knee position, a really, really large hinge at the hips. I'm gonna grasp the dumbbells, and I'm gonna start the stiff leg with the dumbbells a little far away from me as it comes closer, okay? So, this is what it's gonna look like on the downward portion. Touch the floor, thrust my hips up. Hinge at the hips, the butt goes back, but the dumbbell touches the floor, is much further from my body. Extend the hips to get it up, okay? Very slight difference. What it has to do is the amount of strictness in the knee bend. For Romanian, is a little bit more than a stiff leg deadlift. The dumbbell does go further away from you on a stiff leg deadlift, but it's still a hinge at the end. They're very similar, but that's the difference between a Romanian, which I showed at the beginning, and a stiff leg, which I just showed you guys.